I call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Can I get a second? Right? We need a second, right? I'm sorry.
Nope, you can just you're calling it to order. You're good to go.
Okay. Are there any amendments to the agenda? I know I want to amend the agenda. I want to add a discussion item. Yes, promise, sorry. Oh, you can go ahead and go.
You go first. You already go. You're good.
Okay.
I was just gonna strike our allocation.
Okay. I would also like to add 3 discussion items. One will be on the Gold Book. We're gonna have a special presentation from the president of the Council of Presidents, which is Naomi. So she will be coming in later tonight, as well as a discussion item regarding rehousing the CRC and SIOC projects. And I'm not sure if you're aware, Josh, but I was told that there would be discussion tonight over the budget.
Let me see. I know, Fernando, I know Patty. I know, oh, Patty's here. Perfect. Patty, are we talking budget tonight?
Yes, so we'll be having a discussion on the budget just so we can present it to council and start answering any questions. And then we'll bring back next week at council meeting for a vote of council.
Okay, so we want to add a discussion item on the budget. And within that discussion, we also want to talk about ask from the mother organizations that we withhold funds from the CRC and SIOC projects to stand in solidarity with the current ongoing issues within CPO administration. So thank you. I cede my time.
I don't know who raised their hand first, but I'll just go through like the list that I see right now. Jane?
Yeah, can I strike TGIF from the agenda, please?
And then Angie?
Yeah, can I strike ASRF allocations and AAC travel grant mini fund, please?
Got it. And then Sarah?
Hi, can I strike bag, please? Thank you.
And Tay?
Can I strike SWC programming fund, please?
And then Momina?
And then can you strike SFS as well, please? Thank you.
And David?
Can we strike capital contingency, please?
Okay, got it. And then Angie, was there anything else or is that like an old hand?
Sorry, that was an old hand.
Okay, and then Momina? Is that also an old hand? All right. I think I'm gonna also add something, Breeze. It's the CRC appointment. And that will be Eric No.
Perfect. And I'm not sure if we're supposed to note that, Josh, but that is Angie's appointment. Do we have to make it under her name or does it matter?
So, yes, we can. For the future, I need to know about appointments prior so that we can do background check, grade check, to make sure that they're eligible and that they're registered for fall. So, I mean, I can do this retroactively here, but if Eric is not registered for fall or doesn't meet the unit requirement or the requirements to be in this role, we can't, we kind of have to retroact it. Does that make sense? So we try to get the appointments prior to this.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, that was miscommunication on my end. We were trying to get an appointment and I know we have to make a law by June 30th. So we wanted to at least get one done by next week.
Sure.
But awesome. Thank you. Okay. I think that we're good to go. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
A second?
I second.
Jane motions, Armand seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, awesome. I think that we're good. Wait, did someone remove their hand? Sorry. Okay, by a vote of 9-0, the motion passes and the agenda is improved. Moving on to approval of the minutes from, I want to say June 8th, but can someone correct me if I'm wrong?
Yep, 8th is correct.
Awesome. Hopefully everyone's had a time to review the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the June 8th agenda minutes.
A second?
I second to move to approve the June 8th agenda minutes.
Okay. Taylani motions, Cass seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Awesome. And by a vote of 9-0, the motion passes and the agenda for June 8th is approved. Okay, moving on to public comment. Public comment is 30 minutes allocated for students or any member of the public to come and speak with us. Remember the importance of challenging ideas, not individuals, using gender inclusive and respectful language. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability, and each speaker will be given 2 minutes with the opportunity to speak once. Reminder to no dehumanizing language. And with that, we are going to go ahead and start public comment. Please go ahead and raise your hand if you are in the comment and you would like to speak at this time, and Cass will go ahead and promote you. Please be sure to keep your hands up so that I can keep track of who I have to call on. And council members, please lower your hands if you have them up. Would anyone, I don't know if anyone wants to give public comment, or did you promote people, Cass? Okay.
Promoted Justin.
Okay, awesome. Justin, you can go ahead.
Hello. Been a little bit since I've been here. My name is Justin, he, him, former council member. And I'd like to speak in support of council discussing the prospect of the retention and access projects currently housed under CPO, under the SIOC and CRC committees, to potentially be rehoused because CPO has a longstanding history of both of abusing, harassing, gaslighting, you name it, of student leaders in the space. And it is backed up by the current director, Tony. But these are larger, issues that are kind of endemic to the department. I want to emphasize those, as well as the importance of having committees that are entirely student run and student led, right? So we have access over the funds that we in fact pay into as students, and can have the discretion to, fully fund our projects and fund them to how we need them to be funded. So I would like to speak in support of that, and kind of, yeah, I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. I see Malachi's hand is up. If Cass, you could promote him.
Okay, I just promoted him.
Okay, awesome. Malachi, you can go ahead and speak when you are able to.
Hello, my name is Malachi Espinosa, and I'm here speaking on behalf of Samahang Filipino. I kind of just wanted to echo Justin's remarks about the need for discussion about funding for the SIRC and CRC, and the potential moves we could make with that, because we we do believe that as the mother organizations, that there's a lot of leverage that we can take by controlling the funds that go towards CPO, because as he previously stated, there's been a lot of abuse by the director, Tony Sandoval, and the other CPO administration. And there really is a need to kind of give them a reason, or give them leverage, and ultimately allow us to potentially rehouse into the various options that we were exploring. So I just want to ask for that discussion to happen, and for everyone here to consider why we may need to withhold those funds in order to make our campaign and make our needs heard, and to allow CPO to actually listen to us, instead of them historically continuously just ignoring our demands and our requests. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Malachi. Jeffrey?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to hop on really quickly and say that I'm also here to voice support for the MOs in asking council to withhold funds from CPO, but also to begin the discussion of rehousing the SIOC and TRC projects outside of CPO. Just not going to repeat everything that has been said, but so coming from Ideas, which is an affiliate organization of the MO, who actually runs their own programs completely student run and outside of the purview of CPO, we know exactly like how much these projects can succeed, when they are completely student run and student led. And we've already seen the university enjoys the success of these projects, but continuously abuses the student leaders who are in control of them. So I would just urge council to withhold the funds, but also begin to work with the MOs to rehouse their projects. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. So last call for public comment. I don't see anyone else's hands are raised. I'll wait a couple of seconds.
Oh, I'm gonna actually promote Carl.
Yeah, I think that I don't think he wants to give public comment, but I think, yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. With that, we will be closing public comment at 7:14 p.m. Moving on to funding. Contingency programming.
Hi, everyone. Super easy week this week. The total amount requested is $200, and the total amount recommended is $200 to 2 non-USAC entities.
Awesome. And just so I can remember, we don't have to vote on it, right?
You do have to vote on it.
Okay, awesome.
I move to approve the contingency funding of $200 to 2 non-USAC entities.
A second?
I second.
Thomas motions, Jane seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Awesome. And by a vote of 10-0, the motion passed and the funds are approved. Great. Moving straight into special presentations. Usac, you have the floor. So I don't know. Hannah, I believe, is here from Usac, or Jane,
yes.
Either one.
Hello, everyone. Just before I start the screen share, I have met some of you, but not all of you. My name is Hannah Regan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a rising 4th year studying political science and philosophy, and I'm the current Usac chair. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just tell you guys a little bit about what Usac is and what our plans are for this upcoming year. So Usac generally oversees student office space in Kirkhoff by overseeing the biannual space allocation. This most recent school year, I, along with my committee and Sergeant Cooper and Jessica decided that we would move the allocation year to this upcoming school year, so 2021-2022, because student groups lost a full year in their office space. And also it gives the chairperson a year to acclimate to the position, to kind of get to know the role and the student boards before they have to make the biggest set of decisions for their term. So just kind of an overview of what we did this year. We managed student access to office space in Kirkhoff, so facilitating appointments for that. We were able to reinstate the Usac tab on the Usac website, which has a bunch of community development and space and funding resources. We have begun to establish our social media presence, begun to work on our community outreach system, so our office hours, and we have also done a round of purchasing of storage furniture for student offices, which will be really helpful for our return to campus next year. So that kind of takes me to what we're going to focus on next year. So next year, we're going to help facilitate a return to office space and implementation of cleanliness and accessibility standards for all offices. So, you know, I've visited some offices before that are just floor to ceiling boxes. They are not accessible at all. And you know, it's just, Kirkhoff is already such an inaccessible building that I want all students to be able to access each room to the best of their abilities. And so that means establishing new cleanliness standards so students know to, organize and maintain their space, and to be able to use funds that already exist to purchase things that will help them do that. We're also going to be doing our allocation next year, and we're going to continue to work on space and community development resources, working on outreach, and helping student orgs to establish a more permanent space on campus. So there are some orgs and groups of students who deserve more than just an office that's shared with 4+ other orgs and is renewed every 2 years. And so I really want to partner with them to find them a permanent space on campus where their students can find resources and support in community. So it's kind of a broad overview. I'll just take you quickly through kind of our plan for the upcoming year to kind of give you guys an idea. So over the summer, we're going to be working on developing an auditing process for current student offices. So that just means we will do a quarterly check-in in all offices to see how the space is being used, if it's clean, if each org is like hosting meetings and holding time in the office for their students, all those good things. I can't give too many specifics because we haven't developed it yet, but I will definitely, once I have a more solid idea, I'll return to council and present to you guys what we're thinking, for you guys to give input. And the other thing we're going to be doing is working with ASCCLA to kind of develop a return to Kirkhoff plan. We're going to really try to clean all these offices, repair any windows that have been, that don't open or anything, to improve ventilation, stuff like that. As well, then in fall quarter, we're going to be developing and finalizing the allocation application. Determining the proper method of evaluation is one of the biggest things. So in the last allocation year, a point system was used. No record of that point system exists, unfortunately. So we're going to develop a new one. I don't personally am very against a point system. I don't think it's equitable. I presented to council during spring quarter some changes we're going to make to the application. I don't have time to tell you everything here today. So you can go ahead and check our presentation out. I linked it in this one. And feel free to set up a meeting time with me or just shoot me an email and we can talk about it. Otherwise, in fall quarter, we're going to do facilitating the return and the installation of storage furniture that's been purchased. We're running an audit. We will be hosting mandatory office hours for all students with office space to make it so that Usac has a relationship with these student orgs and we can be really in tune with their space needs and any kind of conflicts that may arise within their spaces or because of their space needs. And finally, we'll be doing all year working on our student outreach and social media through office hours and Instagram and all of that good stuff. That's going to be an all year thing. In winter quarter, we're going to be releasing, and I'm moving faster because I want to leave a lot of time for questions. We're going to be releasing our space allocation application probably right at the beginning of winter quarter, so that we have as much time as possible to host workshops to help with these applications, host interviews that are relatively in-depth, as in-depth as we can make it, and to really work on our outreach. I want to make it so that you have to like actively work very hard to not know that this allocation is happening. I don't want any student org to have well, I didn't know, I couldn't see, I couldn't find it, we weren't sure. I want it to be like, you met with me, we emailed you, it was on social media, you saw something, we put something on your door, all of these things. I want it to be absolutely impossible for people to say I didn't know what's happening. And then finally, in spring quarter, we're going to release our allocation decisions during week 3 or week 4, so that student orgs have time to come to council and appeal. I really want to make sure it's this council that they're appealing to, because you will have the most contact with me as OSAC chair, and you'll have the most knowledge about my process as OSAC chair and my goals and my committee's goals, and what OSAC does, so that you can make a better, more informed decision than a council member who just finished an election and is learning all these new things. I think it's just better to get those done before week 6. And finally, I'm actually not sure if this happens in spring quarter. If it doesn't, we'll just be lightly planning. If it does, we'll be moving people in and out of their office space, which will be very exciting and fun. So that's kind of our, plan for next year. Very generally, things can change, as we've learned in the last couple of years. But that's kind of the basic idea of what we're going to be up to. So now I'm going to take some questions, but quickly, just because I want to stop share so I can see everyone when they're asking me questions, if they have any, and give everyone a second to think of something. Here is my email. I will drop it in the chat. I just want to say, I don't have summer office hours, so please email me to set up an appointment. I will respond to you within a couple of days if it's a business day. And if I don't respond to you, email me again. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share. Does anyone have any questions? You can just go ahead and unmute, because there's not a huge. Momina, do you have a question for me?
I think that was an old hand.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Hannah. We really appreciate that. Council members, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
And thank you guys so much for having me. So nice to meet you. And I'll be back. You can't get rid of me too quickly. Thank you for having this time for me. I really, really appreciate it. And again, email me questions if you have them. I'll drop my email in the chat, and we will set up a time to talk about it, because it's a lot and it's confusing. But thank you.
Any other questions? No. Okay, Hannah, I guess you get your evening back. Thank you so much. We look forward to building a relationship with you, and thank you for coming and presenting. We know that summer's a very busy time, so we appreciate you being present today. Awesome. Okay, moving on to appointments. Great. So today we're gonna have, hold on one sec. Oh. We have Eric, who will be appointed to the Campus Retention Committee. He is Angie's appointment. Angie, would you like to introduce? I don't know if she can hear us. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start it off. So Eric, you have a 1-minute intro, 15-minute question and answer period, and a 1-minute closing. Then we will go on to ARC recommendations and deliberations, and finally a vote. Awesome. Okay, who would you like to introduce, Ange? If not, we can move straight into intros.
Angie, you're muted.
I don't think she's able to unmute right now. Hi, Eric. So I can go ahead and give a quick little presentation about Eric because I did meet him a couple of weeks ago, actually, at the protest that there was regarding CPO administration. And I just want to say I think Eric is such an inspiration getting into this work, even as an incoming first year. Not incoming second year. He's been around the entire year, but seeing the advocacy and the heart he brings to the table is really inspiring. I think he is perfect to continue the work that is ongoing, to continue to advocate for students. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you will do in this role as an appointment. Well, hopefully if you get appointed, but we're really excited for you. Great. So you can go into your 1-minute intro, Eric.
Hello, my name is Eric. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a human biology and society and Asian American studies double major. Very honored to be here today. I currently serve as the Vietnamese Student Union's external vice president for the next year, and I have served as a C-Clear intern for the winter and spring quarters. With my experience and with my involvements, I am able to bring to the CIC a uniquely well-rounded perspective. I have seen what it's like in the trenches with the retention projects themselves. I've seen what they need, what we need, working on staff with work groups, working as an intern as well, and also on the other side of the mother organizations, what we need as mother organizations within our coalition and for our organization themselves. Very excited to be answering y'all's questions, and thank you for having me here today.
Awesome. So at this point, council, you can go ahead and enter the question and answer period. Please go ahead and raise your hands. I saw Cass then, Erman.
My question is, how do you plan on supporting retention projects with the transition back to campus this fall quarter?
Admittedly, I am an incoming second year, so I have not spent very much time on campus either. It'll be a learning process for both me and for many of not only our incoming staff, but our constituency as well. I think uniquely it's that I'm willing to learn with everyone. I'm willing to ask the questions to people who have been on campus earlier than I have, who have been on campus more than I have. I'm willing to sit down with our USAC members as we deem necessary in order to aid in that transition. I'm also willing to work directly with our RCs and with our project staff in order to find out what they need from the CRC in order to bring that to our meetings and make sure that I voice their needs as best as I can.
Thank you, Eric. Erman?
Hi, Eric. It's good to see you again. Seeing that transfer students make up 30% of the student body, how will you ensure that transfer students are supported and addressed in terms of retention projects in this upcoming year?
I think that is a very, very important thing to address. I myself being a traditional student, I do not have the perspective of transfer students, and I am willing to admit that I don't know everything, which is why I'm also willing to ask and reach out, whether it be to you, Erman, the TSR for this year, or whether it to be to transfer components of different retention projects, or whether it be to outreaching to like the transfer student body as a whole. I'm willing to do that and bring that back to the CRC as well, because our projects are for all of our students. We want retention for everyone, especially with the unique conditions that transfer students face. I think another thing is to keep up with their voices on all of the TSR's platforms, whether it be like social media, or whether it be through USAC meetings or meeting individually with the TSR as well.
Thank you, Jane. Then Sarah?
Hi, Eric. I wanted to ask how you think us as council can support CRC and the mother organizations this year, and what you think is most important for like the relationship between CRC and council.
I think for CRC and the Mother Organizations Coalition, I think being present, not that y'all haven't, of course, but being present is very, very important. We want y'all to understand that y'all have a stake and that y'all do have power in everything that mother organizations are fighting for. We want to be fighting with you and not just we want you to understand that y'all have a voice and that we have a voice with y'all too. And to continue fostering that connection, whether it be y'all showing up at our meetings or our trainings, or whether it be with the individual offices, individual meetings with our coalition members. We would very, very much appreciate continuing to foster that connection with each other. As for the USAC Council and CRC in general, I think with everything going on, with all of the tension between our projects and our mother organizations and administration who seems to refuse to listen to us, we need you to be our voices with us. We need you to stand we need you to stand in solidarity with CRC and our projects. We need you to make sure that our voices are heard because oftentimes they're stumped out. And that's not, what is the word? It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable leadership for us. And we need to, it is y'all's job to advocate for the student body. And we hope that y'all would be able to do that for us in that way.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, Eric. Good to see you. So you've clearly done a lot of wonderful work in the MO space, especially in BSU and the C space. So I'm wondering which initiative you personally found most effective and how you can expand this opportunity across the other communities at UCLA.
Can you clarify what initiative means? I'm sorry.
Like admit weekends or events, programming, anything.
I think definitely all the admin weekends are really, really important. Seated and C admin, I uniquely all. They give such a specific thing to our community, and I had the absolute honor of also participating in both. But I really do think that our retention projects, I will speak to my own involvements with C-Clear. This year was definitely so hard for so many people. I honestly don't think that I would be here sitting in front of y'all if it wasn't for C-Clear or continue to be a Bruin at all, if I'm being honest. C-Clear was my home. It was so isolating having my first year over Zoom. I remember fall quarter being at the end of it, I was wow, I have no friends. I don't really know anyone. And then I got involved in C-Clear and I found a home and I found a community. And I know that so many other people that have too. And when you find a community, you learn to love it and you learn to love yourself a lot more too. And you learn to fight for it because there are things worth fighting for. And I can't say that anything is worth more or more effective than another initiative, I guess, because they all bring such unique things to the table. But for me personally, C-Clear saved me from a lot, and it gave me so much, and it gives so many people so much, and that's why I'm here today, to hopefully be appointed to the CRC so I can do my best to fight for C-Clear and for all of our projects too.
Thank you, Eric. I don't see any other hands up, but I did want one quick question. So how will you ensure transparency, with USAC? Because something that I definitely want to push for this year is, I found out earlier this week that I was not included in, a task force, or none of the USAC officers that have SIOC and CRC appointments were included in a task force that's being created, which was very upsetting because, we only found out because someone from the MOs reached out. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found out. So how will you ensure we can keep open communication so that, we can be stronger together, I guess?
One thing that I wanted to push for is transparency, actually, because in order to foster solidarity and collaboration, we need to be transparent with each other. We need to know what's going on with each other, whether that be bringing what's going on with USAC and CRC into MO meetings, or bringing MO meetings and what happens there to individual meetings with you or to the CRC meetings in general. That is something I really wanted to place emphasis on. I just want to like hopefully to be able to meet with y'all individually, and to have y'all also sit on the MO meetings should y'all be free, because I think having that connection, fostering that transparency, that communication would be the best way to have all of us be able to work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. Does anyone have any other questions? If not, we can go straight into your 1-minute closing, Eric.
Thank you all for having me here today. Definitely this year has been a lot. It has been a lot for our projects. It has been a lot for me. It's been a lot for all of our staff and everyone. But I do have a lot of hope knowing that we are all here in solidarity together. We're ready to fight for our projects and we're ready to do what is necessary. I hope that with the answers that I provided in my introduction as well, that y'all are able to find the confidence in me to be able to help sit on this committee and help protect our projects in however I may need to. Thank y'all again for your time tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Moving into ARC recommendations.
To a 3-0-0, ARC gives a positive recommendation for Eric as campus retention committee. And yeah, am I able to like share like what my personal thoughts?
At this time, anyone can raise their hand and go ahead and share.
Okay, for me personally, I definitely do see Eric as a great CRC because I can just tell like through the Zoom that he has so much passion for this and he has experience and he's just like very much willing to learn. So I feel very much confident in Eric as CRC.
Awesome. I saw Jane, then Tay, then Arman.
Yeah, I also think Eric is going to be a great CRC. I think he has amazing passion for his community and his work in the MOs. It's really exciting. I think it's super important that we appoint these strong CRC nominees and also that we are there for them every step of the way because I know it's a really hard job to have. So I'm super excited to see Eric in this position, hopefully, and I hope we can all support him as well.
Tay, then Arman.
Yeah, I just want to co-sign what Jean and Cassandra said, but I also want to just say that I'm really proud of you, and I just really hope that admin doesn't beat you down. I know that you can like take it. I know that you are so capable, and I'm so glad that you're still here at UCLA because you do belong here. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of you, and I can just feel your passion through the ARC interview and like today as well. So I'm really rooting for you all the way.
And then Arman, you can go ahead.
Thanks. My fellow council members really captured my emotions really well as well. I think it's really important that Eric is pointed to this space. I think that your passion has been really clear, not only in the interviews you've done today here and with ARC, but also in the history that you've had in working in MO spaces and working for students. I really do believe that you're going to be an amazing person in this space. And I look forward to working with you to ensure that transfer students are given the same retention access and to ensure that students are supported between spaces like CRC and USAC. So I'm really excited to have this opportunity and yeah, really excited to see the things that you're able to accomplish in this role.
Awesome. Okay. I think that that's everyone. Eric, as you can tell, you got a fan base. So moving straight into a vote. So can I get a motion to approve Eric for the Campus Retention Committee?
I move to approve Eric for the Campus Retention Committee.
A second?
A second.
Jane motion, Sarah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Prom?
Yeah, I'm voting yes.
Okay, cool. I'll take that as a yes. Okay, by a vote of 10-0, the motion passes and Eric is our Campus Retention Committee appointment for the Academic Affairs Commission. Thank you so much, Eric. We look forward to working with you. Awesome. Okay, moving straight into officer reports. I'm gonna go ahead and make mine really quick. So there's been a lot that has gone on. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw my email earlier today with Vice Chancellor Monroe Gordon regarding, the lack of transparency with USAC, on the task force that's being created. And, I personally am am of the strong belief that we should call attention to it, and we should make sure that they attend council this upcoming meeting to kind of provide why we weren't consulted in this, especially students that have SIOC and CRC appointments. So yeah, met with the ASU chairperson and with the Mother Organization Coalition to kind of see what our next steps would be and how we want to move about, standing in solidarity. And I know we're going to discuss a bit further later tonight. I am thinking about running a referenda this upcoming year regarding like the Student Advocate Board. And I've been meeting with a couple of other UCs. I met with UC San Diego and UC Berkeley to kind of see how they run their Student Advocate Board. It's basically a USAC position like the one that exists, the ones that we all hold, and it would be an entire USAC office. And they were able last year to see over like 600 cases, which I think is amazing because they see everything from finances to academic dishonesty. So really thinking about doing that. We started planning out the video for True Brew and Welcome, as well as providing, all the information on the individual offices. If you haven't already, please be sure that you register to go to at least a couple of those orientations. I will send the link in the Slack if you guys haven't gotten it, but it should be in all of your emails. And finally, we onboarded all my directors. For this round, we are onboarding 40 directors, and we're really excited to see what gets done because a lot has to get done. So yay. Great. I will popcorn over to Cass.
Okay, for me, some updates. It's mostly like a lot of things happening within the internal vice president office that's happening slowly, such as like this week I'll be meeting with my executives so that we can start developing our directors over the summer, which I'm super excited for. We plan on doing some light marketing this month, such as like having a post with all the USAC offices social media, so that can be like in one place, and maybe y'all can share that. And then in terms of appointments review committee, I think we just like had 2 interview meetings within like this month. And just like a quick reminder, please send like information of appointments to us like on time, so when the agenda is due, because we don't want to wait until like the last day to interview them. And then I'm hoping to appoint a vice chair of Campus Safety Alliance sometime this month. I just received 1 application, so I'm in the process of reviewing that right now.
Thank you, EDP.
Hello, everyone. So our office is also doing some cool inclusivity trainings and advocacy trainings. And we're hoping to develop material to send out to your offices as well, should you be interested in having presentations just about like lobbying, making that more accessible to everyone. And as for the UCSA level, we are starting to strategize to combat the cohort-based tuition increase, which if it gets farther than we would like it to, I will ask you all to help in those advocacy efforts. And since our last meeting, Congress also introduced a bill to double the Pell. That is the Pell Grant Preservation and Expansion Act. Super awesome stuff. So actually it could be cool, just like a quick action item, if you all wanted to text this number for some more information on how we can push that forward. And then the other thing that we're working on is starting to plan for civic engagement for the 5th district election in 2022. This is to replace Councilmember Paul Koretz, who oversees the UCLA district and Westwood. So I'll definitely need some help in terms of turnout for local politics, which is super important in all of the efforts that we're doing. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Sarah. AAC?
I think Angie's Wi-Fi kicked her out.
Oh, okay. Let me see if there are any more. We can come back to her later. Okay, we can come back to her later. Admin reps? So, Patty, sorry.
No problem. No updates from me.
Awesome. George, although I didn't see George. Okay, Josh?
No updates for me.
Awesome. Fernando?
Oh, I've been promoted. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. I don't know if Angie is back. If not, we can start off. Yeah. Okay, Patty, is Roy here tonight to talk about the budget?
No, I'm going to go over the budget with you all today.
Okay. Okay. That should work out. We just had like a couple of questions regarding CRC and SIOC, but yeah. Okay, can you go ahead and start that off, Patty, for us?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I want to pull up the presentation.
So Breeze, for clarity, are we still doing the international conversation, the gold book, and then the housing conversation? Are we just moving budget up?
We are moving budget up because I do not see Natalia here. And I know that Naomi's not here to talk about the gold book yet. So we wanted to move it up.
Okay. Great. That totally works. Let me just share my screen. I want to go to slideshow. Sorry, I never let this bar kind of gets in the way here. Bear with me for a second. There we go. Perfect. So before we talk about going into the specifics on the budget, I wanted to go over just a little bit more information about student fees and how it works. And then we're going to discuss our budget process. So every year we have to have the council vote on the fiscal budget for the upcoming school year. So the 21-22, and that begins August 1st. And we have, I can't see the chat, so if anyone, Fernando, if there's questions coming through, let me know. And then with that as well, this will then, once we vote on it, it will go to our ASUCA Board of Directors, and they will be voting on it for fiscal soundness. So that just means that making sure that our budget is balanced. And they have to vote on that prior to the end of the fiscal year or beginning of the fiscal year at their next meeting in July. That's why we're discussing today, and then we'll be bringing it up next week for a vote. but I just wanted to explain a little bit about what is your USAC budget and kind of what it's comprised of. So each quarter, there are 38 referendum fees that are comprised to create your student referendum fees that are collected with the Undergraduate Student Association. So it's really important for us that there's as much understanding and transparency. And as you can imagine, with 38 different referendums, it can get a little confusing. So our goal is to try to answer any questions you might have, explain the process, and have as much clarity regarding referendum fees and how they work. We worked really closely with the USAC President's Office this year on how we can, communicate out the referendum fees as clearly as possible to the community. And one of the things that we thought was really interesting was categorizing into various categories what the referendum fees purpose are, as they kind of have different focuses. So we have referendums that focus on community outreach and service, academic advancement, promotion of safety, sustainability, entertainment and recreation. So that would be your brew and bash referendum fee, or your CEC membership fees, health and wellness. So this is your the UCLA wellness or USAC wellness initiative that went through recently a couple of years back. Inclusivity and diversity and basic needs. So your good clothes for good people, and also your operational expenses. So this is your USAC membership fee. That's kind of the baseline fee for USAC. So again, here's a pie chart that also helps kind of explain this information in kind of percentage wise, where your money is kind of divided up into different little pieces of the pie. And as you can see, there's a little, on the other side, we can describe kind of what we're discussing when we meant entertainment and recreation. So it was really great working with the council last year to help market this information on your social media and really be able to promote what the funds, how they're utilized, what the purpose of these funds are. And as a referendum, as you know, when you pass a referendum, it'll say language as to what you want the purpose of these funds to be. And then it's our job in our student government accounting department to then issue those funds in a few different ways. So here's another chart that I just wanted to explain a little bit before going into the budget detail. We have a few different main categories that we have funding. So we have our USAC managed funds. So a good example of this would be our brew and bash fee, or our CEC or CSC funds. So that stays within USAC or USAC offices, and they manage the expenditures or the allocation of those funds for various programs. So that's about 33% of your fees are funds that stay within your USAC that you manage. As also your operational expenses, so paying for the stipends, not only for council members, but also for all of your appointed positions that receive stipends as well. And then we also have allocation to funding bodies. So this is your TJF grant funding committee, your CS mini fund, AAC funding, your travel grant for EVP, all of the various arts and well, I can't remember what art stands for, but all the very different funds that are allocated to funding bodies that then promote giving those funds out to student organizations, USA BOD, for example. And then we have our USAC delegated funds. So these are funds that are delegated and then they report back to council. So it was essentially, we collect the funds from our student referendums, and then we then delegate those funds to the various departments or entities that oversee and manage those funding bodies. So CRC, CPO funding. There's a dollar fee that goes to the student media, for example, the Daily Brew. And there's a few different fees that kind of pass through as well, and then are delegated and report back. So I just wanted to kind of explain that in a little bit more detail as then we're going to go into the budget. And I'm happy to answer questions about this before we go into kind of the nitty gritty of the numbers too. And I'm going to plug back into my other computer. Hold on 1 second. Any questions? While I plug in.
So, wait, Patty, what are you going to share? Sorry.
Yeah, so, sorry. When I use my PowerPoint, it doesn't let me share screen on my computer very well. So now I can actually see you a lot easier. So it's just replugging into my share screen. So now I was going to pull up our the budgets to go over those in more detail. But I just wanted to explain first kind of the overarching how the referendum funding works. So then when we go into the budget, as I mentioned, there's those 36 different referendums. Those all have those have allocated amounts of money that will then stay within those accounts. So I just want to give a little frame of reference before we go in to see a big spreadsheet with lots of numbers. So I'm going to start with showing, let's see. Let me pull up the document first. Perfect. Okay. So this is the budget, and I know that it is a lot of numbers to look at right now, but I'm going to kind of walk through it and break it down in more detail. And again, if there's any questions, feel free to ask away. So there are a few different funding. So we have a bunch of different budgetable income, and that's going to be at the top. We have our membership fees. So that's that $10 membership fee that I mentioned earlier. That's assessed quarterly. One of the things that's interesting about this membership fee is it is not tied to inflation. So we have noticed over the years, there's been some erosion in our purchasing power of our baseline membership fee. And this has stayed pretty consistent, you know, has not changed in many, many years. So I think that that's just something I want to point out here, because all of your operational costs, and we'll go over that next, come out of your membership fees to help pay for those. Right in the few different sections, C is what you the actuals from 1920, and there's the difference between actuals and budget is actuals are after the audit's been completed, every single rec has been submitted. That's what we received in income and then what we expended in expenditures. And then budget is what we have budgeted for the 2021, but we haven't finished the audit yet, so we don't have our exact actuals yet for this past year. And then we have our new budget moving forward into this next year. So we determine that budget with our the information based on enrollment numbers that we have received, and then calculate that out based on the various fees that we receive. So we have our baseline funds, operational. There's also a little bit of income that we receive on the interest of that membership fee. So that's where you're seeing that $900. And then here are the various other referendum fees that I had mentioned kind of in passing in the presentation. So we have, you know, entertainment fee, academic affairs commission fee, community service commission fee. These are all examples of fees that would stay within USAC that USAC manages. And then we also have, for example, campus retention committee fee, CRC fees, student initiated access fees. These are examples of fees that are delegated by USAC to other entities that then manage those funds and allocate those fundings appropriately. And then we have our funding bodies, the Green Initiative Fund. Let's see. There's a few other ones in here. There's a, and then here's some other ones that are also a pass-through. So Student Initiative Outreach Committee, Campus Retention, CPO Food Closet, LGBT Student Center funding. So these are also examples of funds that we receive in our funding, and then they go out to these various channels. So here are all the income levels, and then we go back down here and we have our budgetable expenses. So this is where we have the cost of operating the student or your USAC union. So for example, we have our administrative overhead. So that's all of your operational costs. And this includes your stipends, the administrative support to run your student government accounting and student government services division, your maintenance and utilities of your office space in our building, stipends for judicial board, OSAC, finance committee, budget review committee, election board, your retreats and installation, your council discretionary fund, your bank charges, your telephones for offices, computers and websites, and then your meeting spaces, and then your printing. So these are your baseline operational expenses. So that's what you're seeing here in your administrative overhead line. And then also in these program specific expenses, as you can see, there's the funds that they receive and then how it's distributed into the various accounts. So campus events has their budget, expense budget here, also community service, cultural affairs commission. We have also added some funding here as well for some of our commissions that don't receive funding for their offices, specifically from a referendum. So for example, Facilities Commission, Financial Supports Commission, the Gen Reps, Transfer International Representative also received $1,000 from the budget to have some funding for their account and for their expenditures. And same with the IVP in President's Office that don't have referendum funding. We also see we have the Student Welfare Commission. And then here's some additional funds that are put in for the CS Mini Fund, USA Programming Fund. So this is where we place all of our expenses throughout the year. So I'll kind of breeze through this. And then here are those additional funds that are from above, where we receive the money from the student referendum fee, and then the money is sent and delegated to these various committees and funding bodies. And then at the bottom, it just totals it up. And I wanted to just bring a little bit of attention here that there is a slight negative number when we get to the end this year. So we've been working with Breeze. So we are a negative $17,489. So now we have to work together with Breeze's department in the Office of the President to determine how we want to address this deficit. We do need to bring the budget to balance, which means you have to have it a positive number, or it would have to be a 0 or a positive number. When we have a remainder, so let's say we get to a positive number after making some edits, we then would take that remainder, and our practice is to divide that remainder to the council members that do not receive a referendum budget to have the additional resources in their office for their expenses for the year. So I'm going to pause here because I know this is a lot of information and try to help answer any questions. And then Breeze, do you want to take it from here in regards to the best approaches to move forward, or I can, however you want to do that.
Yeah, I think that, so I didn't end up preparing a PowerPoint, but I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong at any point. And council members, okay, you know what? Let's answer questions as of now, and then we can go into potential solutions. So if you have a question right now, please raise your hand. So I see Promise, your hand was up first, so you can go ahead and go.
Yeah, just real quick, do we have access to this?
Yes, we'll be sharing this out. So I wanted to have our meeting today. We'll have some discussion, and then we'll share out our finalized proposed budget. We're going to probably make a few edits and some variation, but then once we have that, we'll be sharing that to you all.
Okay. Would it be possible to get this version so that we can look at it like a bit closer while we're having this discussion? It's kind of hard to see. or like just kind of like look through?
Of course. Let me,
Just in the chat might be easiest. I don't know if
Yeah, you
that's
could just drop it
possible.
in the chat.
okay, it's like an Excel doc. So I feel like I need to put it into the Google Drive.
I saw.
Can I forward these to you or someone, and then they can put it in somewhere that's a little more tech savvy than me, and they can do it more quickly?
Yeah. Are you guys are in the council Slack, right? Perfect.
Okay, Fernando, can you do that? I don't have that. Yep.
Okay, so I saw Promise, was that the same another hand? Okay. Tay and then Haley.
Hi, I'm sorry if this is like a silly question, but I was wondering, even after the budget is approved, are we able to request more money for our commission later on, even though we are in the negative?
So that was a thing that I brought up. I think that, you know, understanding that some commissions are being removed funds, and so long as you can bring forth a decent budget proposal, right, when the time comes, you know, understanding that some commissions did get a cut is important when we discuss surplus. And I'll talk a bit why we can't tap into surplus for this, because that's something I had suggested, but we'll talk about that right after I call on Haley.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, I had a quick clarification question because I missed it when you explained it, Jessica. Can you differentiate original and actual again? Sorry about that.
Sure, of course. So our original budget, so the original budget essentially is what you all are voting on right now. So this is the budgeted, essentially based on the information we have right now, based on our enrollment estimates, this is what we think that we will receive next year. But as you know, sometimes that changes slightly. And so the number might not be exact. So this kind of could show a little bit, even though this is original budget of 2021, but the actual sometimes will be slightly different than what we budgeted. And so we won't know the actual until we finish our end of the year audit. So once our year closes on July 31st, SGA works really hard. That's why if you have any outstanding requisitions with your offices, like submit them. We call it the tidal wave of requisitions at the end of the school year, as everyone's trying to close out all their programs. But they finish up all of their requisitions. They then do an audit process, and then we have all the finalized numbers. That's also when we're able to, once we have that finalized number, we're able to move forward to bring forward surplus. And that was a question that did come up. And thank you, Breeze, for giving such a great explanation of that. But we'll have two different kind of times where we bring surplus forward. Usually sometime towards the end of summer, beginning of fall, where we start getting a sense of what that surplus number will look like. We'll bring conservative estimation, usually about 20 to 25% of what we anticipate the surplus will be, because it won't be finalized at that time, for you all to activate some larger programs in the fall quarter. And then we'll come back and we'll, at the end of fall, beginning of winter, with the remainder of the surplus once our audit is complete and we have those final numbers.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we can go into discussing, I mean, I had a couple of questions now regarding CRC and SIOC, but I think first we can talk solutions as to this. So there were, Patty and Roy and I had discussed, you know, tapping into discretionary funds as an option. However, because, and this is just because I was formerly AAC, I know that Books for Bruins is a program that we want to run usually, you know, starting in the fall for students. AAC doesn't have the funds to run Books for Bruins within their funding body. So usually they would tap into that body if we do not at the time have access to surplus. And last year we got lucky because we found out about surplus earlier. However, there is no guarantee that we will find out on the time. So I just like want to make like everyone aware on that end. That's why I'm iffy on that decision. I also know, what was the other solution that we discussed, Patty?
Sure. In regards to cutting from your operational budget?
Yes, I believe that that was something else.
Another thing that we had discussed is
retreats.
Retreat and installation, and then requesting funding for that at a previous, like once we have surplus?
Mhm.
or other
So
funds available?
again, the only issue for me is I'm not sure when the IBP plans to host those retreats. And, you know, I don't want to pressure anyone to be on a certain timeline either. At this moment, I mean, I personally believe that, you know, we should vote on that slight cut, right, from the individual funding bodies. But understanding that, you know, if folks come forth from those offices and say they need surplus, you know, understanding they will need surplus. And, you know, I know that we were pretty nice last year about surplus because we were really allocating towards like basic needs services all around. I think the last year council. So, you know, I hope that this upcoming year that can be kept in mind as well. But also understanding that some people's like budgets got cut, right? So specifically those commissions might come forth to complete their programming. And, you know, I think us as a council should allow that space. So I am personally leaning towards those slight cuts. I know that I talked to a couple of commissioners, but I would like everyone's input because I believe that those are usually the most affected by these cuts. And as a former commissioner myself, I know how protective I can be over funds. So yeah, I'm open. Sorry?
Please, are you referring to the 25.25%?
Yes.
Okay. So I can show, I'm going to stop share on this document and I can show another document. Okay, perfect.
So that is not the balanced budget, the one you were sharing right now, right, Patty?
Yes. So the first, I wanted to show you all first kind of where our baseline budget is and show the slight imbalance of that negative number. And so what Breeze was just discussing is looking at the various options of how to move forward. We can either cut from our operational expenses, as we mentioned, removing the 10,000 discretionary, removing the 4,000 for retreat, and we'll have to come up with another cut of $3,000 to balance at zero. And another solution that we had was a very nominal fee that would, not a fee, but it would be an administrative cost. So currently the only income that pays for, the only income that pays for your overhead costs, so that's all of the stipends, all of your student government accounting, they process thousands of recs, thousands upon thousands, just 3,000 for your relief program this year is a good example. We have in a lean staff of just 3 employees. And your office space cost of operating the maintenance and facilities costs, judicial board, e-board, all the various committees that you all fund, FICOM, for example, printing facilities, your website, all of those operational costs that I went over earlier, that's all paid for out of just your membership fees, which again isn't tied to inflation. So that's where we start getting this crunch and where we're having that slight negative as we're getting towards this. So what we had worked together and discussed with Breeze is an option of having all of these funds, as you can see here, a big amount of funds, receive support, you know, office spaces or utilizing of our student government accounting. So just having them assist with also helping support some of those administrative overhead costs that go into it. And as we are looking, let me move this over here, make it all a little smaller. We were looking into kind of this option of assessing a 0.25. So this is less than 1%, so 0.25% to fees that pass through, or delegated fees. So not a pass through, but more of a delegated fee. So this would be fees that are issued to various areas across campus that we service and support by collecting their payments, sending out their checks. They report back to the council. And then for fees that are housed within USAC, and USAC manages those fees, at 0.5, so a 0.5% to those fees would be slightly assessed. And this kind of shows right here, you can see the small, some of the nominal fee that would then be coming out of all the fees. So one of the things we were thinking about by doing this, by working to spread the cost across a very small amount cost across a lot of fees, that has less of an impact than having to cut large sums of money from just one or two spots in your budget. So this was one of the ideas that we came up with to help spread the cost of the administrative overhead that support all of these fees as they come through. So that's what we were discussing. It seemed like that was what Breeze was recommending. So I just wanted to explain that in a little bit more detail. And then as you can see here, by doing that, we clear our deficit with a slight positive, and then that would be divided up by our council members that do not have any funding in their accounts in the amount of $646.
Thank you, Patty.
Again, no problem.
No, you've been so much help, and I really appreciate this presentation. Does anyone have any questions right now?
And then the one other thing I wanted to add is the majority of our other fees here, because they were put into place at a later date than your membership fee, there was a better understanding of needing to be tied to CPI, to cost of inflation. So if you look here, for example, the UCLA wellness fee, as you can see, it actually increases a little bit year for year because it is tied to that CPI inflation. And then here again at SWC, it kind of shows that similar vein that most of these funds, which I believe is a good thing, is tied to inflation. So that purchasing power, that original goal of that fee remains the same. But as you can see on your membership fee, the funds stay pretty consistent. So because it isn't tied to that CPI.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, Patty. I think that's very important. And I think the discussion that we're having regarding it is very important. I look forward to continuing to collaborate. I know Naomi did a lot of that last year, but us working to, ensure that we're being as transparent as possible with the student body. If no one has any questions, I think regarding this, I think with being transparent with the student body, it's also in our role to make sure that, we are holding ourselves accountable, and in the sense that, there have been receipts that have been demanded for years, ongoing years, by USAC with CPO administration, right? And a lot of these funds go back, and there are ways oftentimes where USAC gets blamed for missing funds that, really we can't control. And we just need to find those receipts, and we need to work with the SIOC and CRC projects, to ensure that we are standing in solidarity with them. And at this time, I think, and I'm going to ask you, Patty, or Josh, we are able to vote on this, right? Even if we wanted to hold those CRC, I know that CRC and SIOC a few years back, they have held those funds. Are we able to do that?
You want to, I'm sorry, I don't know if I fully understand the question.
So we want to make sure, we want to hold the CRC and SIOC funds at this point. I know that I believe a few years back that was FICOM had done some sort of vote on it. I don't know if it's USAC or FICOM itself. But I do know that that is an ask that the MO Coalition is making of USAC right now.
I honestly have to check on that. That's a really good question. I don't know if Patty, if you know that.
We'll have to look at that in more detail. I'll have to have specifics about the reason for the hold. And then, but we would still, the collection of the fees would be remaining the same. And then this would be for our allocation to them for this upcoming school year. So they should receive these funds, you know, after the August 1st date. But if you're looking into holding back funds, we have to get a little more detail and discuss that more specifically.
Yeah, so
yeah, we can move forward with this vote because the collection of the fees would remain the same.
Okay, yeah. I think that the reason why is like we had done research on the side and we found that if there is like misuse of funds or, you know, we are not like, there's no accountability, that USAC can vote to like restrict those funds. So I think that is something that I did want to talk with the council about in a bit, but okay, that would work out. Thank you so much for that clarification, Patty. Awesome. Okay, does anyone have any questions regarding the budget? If not,
and then just the one thing I just want to add, and next week when we bring this forward to a vote, we'll just have to determine, you know, the exact plan to move forward the budget. I'll also forward this version to Fernando so he can include in the Slack so you all can see it in more detail. And then that would be, we'll have to have a official vote to approve whichever budget plan we're moving forward with. Thank you all so much.
No, thank you so much, Patty. We appreciate you. Okay, so Cass, will you please promote Naomi?
Got it. Okay, I think I promoted Naomi now.
Hi, Naomi. Whenever you are unable to unmute, the floor is yours. I know that you came to discuss a response that USAC should make.
Hi. Yeah, sorry. I joined on a device that's not mine, so I was having a little bit of difficulties. But hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here tonight. I'm sure we've all met before at some point, but my name's Naomi. I'm actually here today in my capacity as the Council of Presidents co-chair. I'll be serving in that position until August. And one of the things that I've worked on alongside the UC Student Association and the UC Graduate and Professional Students Association has been policing, and it has been campus safety at large. And I wanted to talk about the UC-wide Ucot Presidential Safety Plan that was released by Ucot and the Office of the President Drake, and some of what I find to be very problematic within the statement, but also just going over our overarching goal that we have, or our overarching vision of campus safety that we put forward. So I'm going to share my screen and first start with a presentation that myself and the Council of Presidents, UCSA and UCGPC put together during the two-part UC Campus Safety Symposium. These two symposia took place in February and I want to say March. We presented at the second one though, and at the second one, we created a Reimagining Campus Safety through a values-driven lens. And we had done lots of research, had talked to student constituency groups in collaboration with students UC-wide, had put together a vision for what we wanted to see as students and as a community from campus safety. We had partnered with ASME 3299, amongst other organizations. And I'm not going to go through all of this because it's online and you all can look at it and the entire presentation yourselves. But one of the main things that we had put together was just the ongoing and the increasing awareness around abolition, around police brutality, around systems of police violence, the UC being one of those institutions that perpetrates and perpetuates a lot of these systems and a lot of the violence that occurs. We believe that the UC can create a campus that's safe without police. We've seen it. This is, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the UCPD was not always part of the fabric of the institution. It was created in the 60s in response to increasing militarization abroad and also students' reaction to increasing militarization abroad, specifically used to repress student protests. So in our presentation, we had talked about reimagining campus safety. And what does that actually mean, right? We talk about re-envisioning a world without police and all of that stuff. And what we felt like on campuses meant redefining the scope of campus safety, meaning that campus safety is not just policing, it's not just pulling people over and quote unquote law and order. It's about housing, it's about meeting people's basic needs, it's about ensuring that people have adequate access to mental health services, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about examining and reallocating police resources, this literally meaning defunding the police, peeling away parts of the police that do not keep the campus safe, and then reallocating those resources to things that better suit communities and are led by community-driven safety responses. We talked about rejecting mutual aid with local police departments. Perfect example of that, Jackie Robinson Stadium, the Jackie Robinson Stadium incident that the university still has not, I would say, reckoned with completely. They've put together their outside investigation, which has not done nearly enough. It's been over a year now, and we still have seen no reparation of that harm. We talked about empowering community-led accountability, promoting transparency, and then leveraging the UC's platform. So like I said, I think you all could go through this presentation, but at the end, we put together our own ideas of what campus safety can be, or what the scope, sorry, that's my dog. What the scope of, Papa, oh my gosh, sorry guys. What the scope of campus safety can look like. And that means, you know, investing where we're divesting and whatnot. So fast forward to a few months later, the president used a lot of what he heard at the campus safety symposia to inform his campus safety plan. And now I'll share my screen and show you all this plan, which I really encourage you all to look through yourselves, read through it. I'm only going to do a brief kind of rundown, but like I said, this was at the beginning of the school year. The president knew that there had to be a larger system-wide conversation around policing, one that hasn't really been done on this scale. His proposal was to create these symposia. What came from and what is informing the key or the plan are these 4 pillars here. We're seeing, community and service-driven safety, a holistic, inclusive, and tiered response model for safety services, transparency and continuous improvement through data, and then accountability and independent oversight. I will just start by saying that there overall is no plans or no commitment to defunding even the tenets of abolition, which include disarmament, defunding, and ultimately dismantling. And if you look through here, I'll just go down to some of the recommendations and the actions that the president is asking each of the schools to implement. We have campus-based task forces that are supposed to be including marginalized communities. There is no accountability for these said task forces. There's also the knowledge that task forces are actually extensions of police power. They don't actually get at the root of policing and the problems with it. We've talked about community-led response, and I'll come back to that. Here we have a history of policing, and then capturing all the views, the different views that will be shared and considered. But like I said, there's no Here's how we're going to do such a thing. In other words, each of these actions are very vague. They have very vague timelines and they seem almost arbitrary at points. And we are actually inquiring around like what is the nature of the timeline itself. But some of the highlights are just some of the problems that we found with the safety plan. We wanted to note here in the holistic, inclusive, and tiered response services that campuses will develop a campus safety whole systems infrastructure that more deliberately integrate campus policing. So again, we've talked about removing police from mental health services, and this plan talks about being strategic about how it's woven into the responses. So I say all of this to say that it's not nearly enough. Even when we get to the accountability and independent oversight, we're seeing that UC Davis's Police Accountability Board is used as the standard, as the minimum standard. And even then there have been, UC Davis's Police Accountability Board is nowhere near perfect. They don't have any hiring, firing, or even explicit investigative powers. And so we're seeing that the plan is very limited. And then also they're giving campuses until 2022. Most of y'all will be graduated by then. I just want that to sink in. Like for some of these very mild police reforms, you won't even be able to see. I won't even be able to see. I already graduated. So I say all of this to say that the deadline to give feedback on this plan is June 30th. I don't know how much you all know about this, but especially some of your offices I'm looking at are were very active in this process last year and should be active again this year, and really encouraging you all to take a stance on this, to possibly write your own or submit your own feedback, whether it be Breeze as the Office of the President or USAC as a council, and really also put forth what you all believe campus safety should look like. If y'all have any questions about a lot of the research that I've done, I've worked with the UCPD Coalition. I was an organizer within the coalition. I also have done my own research. I've been very involved in those types of organizations. So if y'all have any questions, I'm here. But yeah, strongly encouraging you all to take a stance. And that is largely because there's data that shows that UCPD disproportionately police and over police Black and brown students on campus. I can show y'all some of the data, especially by the mapping yesterday's police activity, the report that just came out from the Lewis Regional Center. I'll drop the link in the chat. And then also the No UCPD Coalition released their own report that showed a lot of this disproportionate data that I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm gonna stop here. Breeze, I don't know if anyone has any questions or yeah.
Thank you so much, Naomi. You were such a great leader in this past year as council. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that my own office, we did want to include USAC as a whole in this discussion. But regardless, like I don't want to hoping that everyone is able to take a stance on this, and be strong and firm. But if no one is not everyone is able to, myself and whoever wants to sign on to a letter will be taking a stance. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Naomi. Love seeing you again. You're amazing. A force to be reckoned with. Thank you. Awesome. Okay.
Breeze, I'll also drop those links in the chat before I head out.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And then we could go ahead and maybe put them in the meeting notes if you're able to, Cass, or the agenda if folks want to reference it after the meeting. Awesome. Okay. Is Natalia here, or did anyone find out?
I messaged her on Slack and through text, but she hasn't responded.
Okay, so we might have to remove that. But for right now, I think that I was interested, and I don't know how much you can answer, Josh, or if anyone within this room. So a big discussion that's being had right now within the MOs and a big ask that's being made of us is potentially rehousing the CRC and SIOC projects. And, you know, I was told by some members from within the coalition that they would like to be housed within USAC. I don't believe that's possible, nor would I recommend that, because I think that, you know, these should remain student-initiated, student-run projects. And like USAC should not be overseeing these projects because, you know, they're directly tied to the mother organizations. But I think that if anyone can maybe answer, I don't know if Josh is still here, or where we could start that conversation, because I know that a big question being asked right now, Josh, is where we could potentially, who we should reach out to if we are looking to, if they are looking to move to ASUCLA, and you know how quickly those can be done. I know that also there has been discussion around amending the SOUs so that you know, they could be moved, but I'm really not sure how to redirect students in that case, and would really appreciate input or really discussion overall. I mean, I think you guys know that there is a lot of unrest and it's been long overdue. So yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to talk about it, or if Josh, you know anything that could help guide us as a council.
Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously a delicate conversation, and I'm not even going to pretend I know all the answers, to be perfectly honest with you. So I did learn about this conversation maybe a week or two ago about the transfer or the request to transfer I believe from CPO to either ASUCLA. I heard potentially Seoul. I don't actually know all of the details, so I want to apologize on that first, because I don't have all that information. But with that said, I don't know. I got to actually educate myself on the history of how they ended up in CPO first, and then what that looks like. Because does funding for both of these come from USAC, correct? Yeah. And so where they're housed, I actually don't have the answer to that. Patty, I don't know if you have any information on that, and I don't want to put you on the spot either, but I can commit to looking that up and seeing what the possibilities are.
Yeah, so speaking, oh, sorry, Patty, you
Oh, no, I apologize. I was just going to say, I can agree as well with Josh that I will work with Josh to look into this in more detail and bring back as much information as possible.
Okay, Jane.
I just wanted to ask, also, I don't know if Patty and Josh could, or Josh could answer it. If you guys know about like the referendum language, I believe it says like to the campus retention committee and the student initiated outreach committee. So if those committees like were to move outside of CPO, they would still be able to receive their funding, right? As long as it says to those committees and not to CPO in the referendum language.
Yeah, I believe so. And that's why I was confused, because I spoke to Melissa from Seoul, and she had said that there was possibility that if USAC was willing to like house, I don't believe that USAC should house for the reasons that I laid out. But if there was a way that ASUCLA could like host, then I do believe that that can be something we can look into. Prom?
Yeah, I want to say that like, yeah, the social justice referendum language does say campus retention committee and student initiated outreach committee. And I believe the other referendum language also states that. But something that in talking about like discussing this that we were wondering about is like in the bylaws, it discusses sponsorships, like council sponsorships. And there's like council sponsored organizations, which are like just kind of like affiliated, and there's also the commission affiliated sponsorships. And I wasn't sure if like Josh or Patty, like y'all knew a bit more about that and like kind of just like that process, and if like something like CRC and SIOC, which have like full-time staff and like full-time paid positions and stuff and such, like if that is something that falls within those like bylaws.
Yeah, again, so I apologize. I review the agendas as soon as Cassie sends them. And what I try to do is make sure that I have all of the research so that I can answer all of these questions. But because this was added tonight, I don't have, I'd have to look back at the bylaws and really look into them. So I don't want you to think that I'm dodging this conversation. I promise you I'm not. I just really need to look into this. I don't want to misspeak and say something that is not accurate and then have to retract that. So I'm taking notes, and I believe Patty is as well on all of these questions, and I'd be happy to come back and provide answers.
Thank you so much, Josh.
I'm sorry, Promise.
No, and
That's okay.
we appreciate you being honest. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I think that there's just been a lot of push, especially, you know, since we are voting on the funding, that, you know, they really want some sort of answers, and they really want us to make sure that like we're doing what we can. As it is our responsibility, I want to remind everyone on this call that even though, you know, some of us are like working closely with the MO Coalition, you should all be up to date, and you should all also make it a priority to reach out to the MO Coalition and attend their meetings to make sure that you're informing yourselves. Yeah, does anyone have any other conversation? If not, thank you so much, Josh. And would I be able to add it again as a discussion item for next week?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So for clarity, the questions that I wrote down, and if there's anything else, MOs, can they amend the SOU and move to ASU CLA? And if they move from CPO
well, I don't think it would be them, Josh. It would be us, because the SOU's with USAC.
Correct. Right. And then, but the request is moving from CPO to ASU CLA. And then and again, not to put Patty or any or ASU CLA, but then I think ASU CLA has to accept that as well.
So they had said, because I think they spoke with Poria, and Poria said that the issue would be space allocation. But they were kind of saying that they don't necessarily need a space, and that's where I was like, well, USAC could host if they need a space, like in parentheses. That's what I kind of want to know more about, what they mean by this space that is needed. And then I was also confused, because then I was like, well, isn't that under OSAC? So that got me a little more confused as well.
Now, I mean, if it fell under ASU CLA, yes, then it would go through OSAC. Patty, you jumped off of mute. Jump in, please.
Yeah, well, in regards to space, in Breeze, maybe you can send me more context, because this is the first I'm hearing about it. Just a clarity of exactly what's mean by rehousing. I think that would help us get a little more detail. Is office space for these organizations? I'm not too familiar with what office spaces they currently have, but that would be something if, you know, we only have a finite amount.
They're in College of Letters and Sciences, they said right now.
The student clubs, I'm not sure who.
Yeah. Like that's where they're like housed right now. Like, I guess as in space, like physical space is what they said.
And these are student organizations?
Yeah, SIOC and CRC. I got a bit confused by that too, but maybe it's like, I don't know, Patty, maybe we can set up an offline meeting with a couple leaders of them so they can explain really what's going on.
I think that'd be great for, you know, all of us involved.
Awesome. And then Jane, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say something about the space thing too in regards to OSAC. Some of the MOs do have office spaces, but they also share them with different orgs. And it's not like they're their retention projects aren't currently housed under OSAC. So that's something they could like explore, and like I'd be down, and I'm sure Hannah would be down to work on them with, but they don't currently have that office space within OSAC. But I don't know if that's something they want to explore, is having them in Kirkhoff instead.
Yeah, from my conversations with them, they were interested in that, but I just don't know if it'll get done because I know like it's a lot to get space on campus. It's a big issue. So awesome, Jane. I'll probably loop you into that conversation as well. And if anyone would like to be looped into those conversations, that maybe Patty and I'll set you a when to meet, Patty. But I think if anyone else would like to be looped in, please go ahead and message me so you can be in attendance. Awesome. Okay. Include Josh and Jessica. Will do. Thank you, Patty. Great. So in the interest of time, we will be closing off this meeting unless anyone has any more time. Wait, we don't have to strike anything, right? Because it's just like we did have the discussion that didn't happen, Josh, but
yeah, so if the international conversation about vaccines, if the person is not here, we just move forward as is. And then because the presenter did not show up, it will just, it remains. We would move that if the presenter wants to come back to old business for next week if the presenter can make it.
Awesome. Okay. So next week we will be having another meeting. It will be longer because we do have a lot of appointments to make. And I want to make sure that everyone who has appointments to make sure that they have them in by the June 30th deadline. Awesome. So we are adjourning the meeting at 8:48 p.m.
The recording has